let's talk about the Alaskan mermaids, also known as the Kalupalid. Now, these creatures are extremely known in the Inuit culture and folklore mythology, and they're also known around the northern Canada and Alaska area. And they're known to live along the Arctic shorelines. Now, they have long, dark, greasy hair and web-like fingers and sharp claws. They're known to be wearing like some type of animal fur on their back. And they also have these big fins, and they are extremely known to steal children that wander too close to the waters. Now, they're very similar to sirens in a way to me. The way sirens have this distinctive song that they sing to lure men, mainly men. Not saying that they won't lure other people in, but they tend to lure men to their deaths. The Kalupalid have this hum that they're known for that can make kids go closer to the shoreline, and that is when they grab them by the legs and they pull them underneath into their underwater world or underwater cave, and that's when they'll eat them, or sometimes they might keep them and enslave them. Now, accounts vary to what actually happens to the children once they take them. Some say the kids are simply devoured, and some say they're kept in this state-like way to help fuel the Kalupalid, kind of like preserving them in a way to help fuel their youth, because they need the kids and the children to keep them immortal. In most cases, when creatures like specifically target children, it's all for the same reasons. Kids are pure. Kids are innocent. And most of the times, kids aren't filled with all these nasty toxins and preservatives and all that stuff that adults are filled with. Now, this is one of those cases when like people are like, you better not go too close to that water or the Kalupalid is going to come get you. But there's also some tales of children that are being willingly given to them. Now, there's one tale that I read up on, and I'll tell y'all about it real quick. There was this grandmother and grandson, and the grandmother was having a hard time feeding the grandson and her. So she called upon the Kalupalid to come take the grandson because she felt like that they would take better care of the grandson than she could. Like, huh? And some others say that he was just being disobedient to the grandmother and she just gave him up. I don't know how true that one is. But they're known to be very invulnerable in their natural state. But some Inuit hunters found a way to bypass that and trick them. So they would call out to them and ask them to change their shape or form. Usually they'll transform into like a seal or a whale or something. And that is when they'll kill them and catch them and bring home a big catch. Now let me know what you think about the Kalupalid, but I call them Alaskan sirens.
Alright, so in Trinidad and Tobago, we have one set of folklore that stems from West African and French roots. So for our first folklore I want to talk about today, and it's actually one of my favorite ones, is La Diablesse. So simply in French, La Diablesse means female devil, and as you can see, she's usually a beautiful woman wearing long dresses or long skirts and clothes. Sometimes she's wearing a big hat because in other stories they say she's not that pretty, so she needs to wear the hat to cover her face. But for the most part, she's very attractive and sensual, especially to men. The one thing that makes her different from a mere mortal that you should usually be able to tell is the cow foot, but that's why she have only long skirt and a long dress, so you don't see the cow foot. The story goes that she typically only comes out when the moon is the only light you can see in the sky, and then she tends to go on these kind of sketchy roads to see if any men will come and pick her up. So she'll flag them down, try to see where she can get a drop, and then she will usually lead them to their plight in the end of the night. If you're trying to get rid of a La Diablesse, either turn your clothes inside out or light a match or a cigarette. So if you have any stories, comment below.
Here are creatures from African American folklore. Flat-Eye of Gullah culture is a menacing being with eyes as large as dinner plates, and it finds its victims who are out alone wandering in the darkness of the forest. It is portrayed as a stalker, following its victims doing nothing but simply driving them into madness. The Buhag is an eerie figure who sucks the breath from his victim rather than blood. Like a vampire, these skinless entities, appearing red, cunningly steal and wear their victim's skin to blend in, entering homes through tiny cracks to feed and leaving the person alive for future energy harvesting. Night doctors, also known as night riders, night witches, Ku Klux doctors, and student doctors, are bogeymen of African American folklore who emerge from the realities of grave robbing, medical experimentation, and intimidation rumors spread by Southern whites to prevent workers from leaving for the North. Night doctors wandered the night looking for victims to dissect and the bear rabbit is a powerful trickster being. who's actually pretty chill once you get to know him. Stagger Lee, also known as Stago Lee, is a primordial being immortalized in the song. He's the embodiment of the tough black man who defies white authority. Legends credit him with the ability to transform into animals, causing the San Francisco earthquake and fighting a duel with Jesse James. It was even mentioned that the devil himself was afraid of him, and somehow Stagger Lee kicked him out of hell and ruled it himself for a time. While not necessarily creatures, the Flying Africans is one of the most important African American folklore, stemming from the enslaved Africans' desire for freedom from bondage. According to the legend, they actually took flight from their chains and returned home to Africa. Isn't that awesome?
Did you know that mer beings have been present in folklore throughout the world since practically as long as folklore has been around? With some weird cases of mer beings coming from dark corners of the world, and some coming from places that you may have never heard of. There was an interesting case that was reported by Japanese soldiers from the K Islands of Indonesia in 1943. The K Islands are located in the southeastern part of the Molucca Islands in Indonesia. In 1943, Japanese soldiers stationed with a surveillance team on a small remote island with the K Island chain reported seeing strange creatures in the water that were said to have limbs and a face somewhat similar to human, but a mouth like a carp filled with needle-like teeth. These bizarre creatures were described typically being around 5 feet tall and having pink or salmon-colored skin, as well as prominent spikes on their spines and some on their heads, or even their necks and shoulders. Unlike the more classical mermaids, these mermaids were not described as attractive maidens and did not have holy fishtails, but rather possessed 2 long arms and 2 prominent frog-like legs, both of which ended in wicked talons. In one case, 2 of the odd creatures were spotted playing in a lagoon, and another was reportedly seen swimming near a beach in a manner similar to a human doing a breaststroke. One report was told by a startled soldier who recalls seeing one of the creatures on a beach one night. After the soldier had thought it was a child until it turned around and he could see in the moonlight, and its facial features were not quite right. The creature quickly ran headlong into the water upon being seen and did not resurface. They were allegedly able to get around on land to some degree, with another soldier claiming to have seen one running about on the sand at dusk, seeming to be looking for something. However, they were claimed to be most at home in the water, to which they were able to dart and zoom through with ease. Like and follow for more stories.
Okay, so let's talk about the Sokuyan. According to Caribbean folklore, the Sokuyan is known as a fire hag in the Barbados. Legendary evil, wrinkled old woman who hides by day, but by night, she sheds her skin. She then turns into a ball of fire that roams through the air, going after anyone who's sleeping. She will suck the blood out of these victims, especially babies. They say that if you suspect that there's one nearby, that you should throw dried rice all around your bed. Apparently there's this mysterious law that if the Sokuyan comes across dried rice, she is compelled to pick up each strain of rice one by one, which gives you time to escape. So I did some research and I ran across this video that I'm just gonna put this out here. So that ball of fire just roaming around was caught in Trinidad. So let me know if you guys would like to hear some stories. I never encountered her personally, but apparently a lot of people have.
So one night, God and Death are walking up this hill, and Death is just, making conversation as he does. He's just talking about his little route, who he's visiting next. He's like, last week I visited that man over there from that big old house. Tomorrow I'm visiting him down there. And God is just like, oh my God, you're always taking from people. I'm always giving to them. This is why they don't like you. This is why they like me best. And Death is just like, says who? Says who? Who said that? And God is just like, everybody says that because it's true and I can prove it too. And Death is just like, okay, go. prove it then. So God makes this whole plan, and he's just like, okay, we're going to visit the man that you're about to visit tomorrow. We're going to ask him for some water, and whoever he gives the most water to, that's the winner. That's who everybody likes best. One simple test. Let's go. And so he does. He goes down there and he's just like, my good sir, could you please spare me some water? And the man is just like, I ain't got a drop for you. Nothing. and so he's just like, I'm so thirsty. If you could please just give me some water, I'm sure that God would bless you. And the man is just like, bon Dieu? Bon Dieu? Papa, de affaire bon Dieu. Ou kon ki sal fem? Ou kon ki sal fem? Li bay tout moun not baus rayo d'lo. Yo gen an pil d'lo se be not lo. Mwen c'est juste l'autre volant de aller pour me jouer un petit gode de l'eau pour me retourner la caille moi m'soif encore pas parler de affaire bon c'est côté maintenant. So then God is just like, oh, and John is in the background dying, by the way, and God is just like, oh, if you knew who I was, you would not speak to me that way. And the man is just like, who are you? And God is just like, I am God. And the man's just like, and Death has died by now, right? And so God goes back up the hill and he's just shaking his head. And Death goes down and he's just like, can I have some water? And the man is just like, who are you? And he's just like, I am Death. And the man is just like, here, have as much water as you want, take it all. And God is up there like, wait a minute, what? And the man looks up at him and he's like, what about it? And what about it? And what about it? Unlike you, he is fair. Last week, he took somebody from that big old house. The week before, he took my neighbor's wife. The week before that, he took that child over there. He takes everybody equally. He's got no favorite, so he can get as much water as he wants. And by the way, why'd you come for me for water? You didn't even give me any to give.
So as I mentioned in the previous video, the origin of zombies can be traced back to Africa, specifically Central Western Africa, through Haiti. Zombies were made popular through Haiti. Haitians descend from Africa. And the word zombie itself, or zombie as it said in Haitian Creole, originates from my language, Kikongo. It originates from my people's language, Kikongo, and other Bantu dialects from that region. The origin of zombies is so different from what we've come to know today. These days, they're cool, they're trendy, they're funny. But the real meaning behind zombies is sad. The origin and real meaning of zombies comes from the very real fear of millions of African and African descended people, from the past to the present. The fear of being enslaved, of having your freedom taken away from you. Zombies is essentially a supernatural allegory to slavery. Our ancestors were terrified. Their lives were being taken away from them, their freedom, their decisions, their agency, and they were being turned into these objects that people could use for their own gain. That is a fear that was real then, and it is a fear that is still real now. You get African refugees that are being sold into slavery. You get young women and girls that are being sold into marriage. Orphan children get turned into house slaves because there's no one to look out for them. This is a very real fear that was taken and turned into a commercial joke. I see a lot of people on the internet talking about how we're trying to steal their history, their mythology through Lord of the Rings and having black elves and now Ariel. Meanwhile, look what you did to our mythology. You took a very real fear, a tragedy of millions of people, and you turned it into a joke. You turned it into something that is trendy and cool. George A. Romero is considered by many to be the one who ushered in the modern day zombie craze. But essentially what happened, the traditional zombie was westernized. You took the original face of zombification and replaced it with this. But to our ancestors, to many of us, this is not cool or funny or trendy. This is scary and it's sad and it's painful. You go from being a fully formed human being with thoughts and feelings and hopes and dreams to being turned into an object that people can use and abuse over and over again. And there's nothing you can do and there's no one to save you because you're as good as dead in their eyes. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the real meaning of zombies. And that's why I'm writing my African zombie movie, because it's about time our version of the story got told.
This is one of the most terrifying urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. But in Canada, there was this legend that one night a bunch of people saw a bright blue light in the sky, and the next day an entire village of people disappeared. But it turns out that legend is rooted in something that really happened. This is coming from this week's episode. I have a whole series on urban legends that ended up being true, and it's a very scary listen. So in Canada in 1930, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle was riding in the river in his canoe when he came to a village he had seen before. Except this time when he came upon it, it looked like everyone had left in a hurry. Food was still cooking, and a bunch of dogs were barking and super hungry as if they had been left behind. But the strangest part of all of this was in the middle of the community, there was a grave that had been disturbed. And that reminded the fur trapper of a very scary story he had heard. The legend of the Tornrak, which was this demon that supposedly stalked the area. So he starts looking for someone who might know what happened to these people. They were a nomadic people. It didn't make any sense that they would have left all of their stuff behind. And that's when he finds a man in a hospital who was potentially part of the village. The man is so freaked out. He won't say anything at first, but eventually Joe gets him to talk, and he recognizes one word that the man says. Tornrak, the name of the evil deity that was potentially in the area. The police basically don't believe any of this, but they do acknowledge that before the disappearance, they did see blue lights in the sky that no one has been able to figure out what they were. I get more into the theories of what may have happened in this episode, and I also talk a little bit more about other urban legends that ended up being true.
Hey guys, welcome back to All Things Jenny. I'm Jenny. So this video is going to be episode 5. So you might hear me say episode 5 on another video. That's because I recorded them in the same day. Anyway, so I don't want to hold you too much, but so this video is basically about shapeshifters and folklore from all over the world, including Haiti. So at the end of the video, you will hear me tell you a story about shapeshifters. So I mentioned loups-garous, and I want you to know what a loup-garou is. So a loup-garou is basically a shapeshifter who will take the form of an old lady, usually like an old hag, or I think that's what they call them, an old lady who will basically steal children and or jump on top of your house if they know you have an innocent child in the house and try to steal the soul of the child. So that is the purpose. That is what a loup-garou is. So it's a shapeshifter here, and I'm pretty sure in other areas of the world people call it something different, but that's what a shapeshifter is. It's definitely someone who was either passed down the power to be a loup-garou, or they sold a soul in order to have that power. So you can be born with it if it was passed down from generation to generation, or you can actually be initiated into it. So yeah, so hopefully you understand that part. But it is a folklore in Haiti that people actually do turn and shapeshift into different animals, and that is the reason why they will tell you don't do certain stuff to certain animals. And I will be sharing more videos about folklores in Haiti because we have so many. We'll be talking about zombies, people turning human into zombies and all that stuff. And it's not like the zombies in the movies like they have here. Not the same thing. Trust me, it is not the same thing. But yeah, so anyways, guys, I will see you at the end of the video where I share a story, which I believe I had shared before in my TikTok. And I know there's a couple of YouTube channels that have shared this same exact video that I'm about to share with you at the end of the video. So if you saw it anywhere else, and you can tell it's me. Obviously, you can tell it's me. And I'm telling the story about my family, what happened while I was a child. So stay tuned for that. I'll see you at the end. Bye.
Let me tell you an ancient story. Long ago, there was a great voyager known to the seas as Liava'a. Coming from Tonga, he chose to sail to the island of Tutuila of Samoa. Along with his crew, he chose to bring along his daughter, Sina. Now Liava'a was renowned for his thirst for ava, the drink of the gods. So Sina's job along this crew was to serve ava to Liava'a along the journey. As they reached Tutuila, they came upon a coastal village and chose to rest there. The people of the village welcomed the infamous Liava'a and replenished his supplies. But he left as quickly as he came, set sail and set off. Some time passed on, and then he became thirsty for ava. So he called for Sina, but she did not come. He became impatient and called for Sina once again, his voice thundering against the swaying waves. But she still did not come. Worry set in to Liava'a, and he frantically searched the canoe, but Sina was not on board. she was left behind at the village after she was fetching water for herself. Liava, anxious and worried, tried to turn the sail around, but the currents did not allow him to return to the coastal village. Frustrated, he ordered his men to retrieve his beloved daughter Sina, and so his crew dove into the ocean to swim back to the village. As they dove into the waters, their bodies were transformed into the bodies of fish. Their body became built for water. They became the first dolphins. In these dolphin forms, they swam all the way back to the village. But the people of the village saw them as a bounty. They quickly grabbed their spears and got to fishing. As they brought these new creatures upon the shore, they were horrified to hear these new fish scream like men. For unbeknownst to them, they were Liava's crew. Over and over, Liava's men tried to retrieve Sina, but they were subsequently hunted as soon as they entered the bay. Soon, Liava's men realized that their works were in vain. Realizing they could not retrieve their beloved Sina, they chose instead to provide for her. In their dolphin forms, they herded school of atule fish into the bay so that they could feed the villagers, who, in turn, would feed their beloved Sina. And the dolphins continue to do this to this day. This coastal village was forever then known as Fangasa, the Forbidden Bay. After many years, Liava finally returned and embraced his beloved Sina. But he was old, and he soon passed on to Pulotu. The village of Fangasa then chose 2 stones to represent Liava and his beloved Sina. The 2 stones still remain in Fangasa, revered for the memory of a loving father who, in providing for his daughter, brought the herd of atule fish and the dolphins to Fangasa. The people of Fangasa still to this day herd and fish the atule fish, and it is said that the dolphin is their symbol of the village. When the dolphins appear, the atule have arrived. They see this as a blessing to their village. This is the story of the village of my papa. This is the story of the village of Fangasa. Mumua le tua, fafatai le tua, atua tasi.
Story time. I grew up in Upolu in the village of Tuefu. To get to our house, it's very inconvenient to get to, especially if you don't live there. We're not by the main road, and our neighbors are about 100 yards away from us. Anyways, our house stood about 30 feet from a river. We were separated by a wall, and we had stairs that led to said river. We had a 2-story house, and me and my sister's room were in the corner. 2 of our walls had nothing but windows. Anyways, one eerie night, I'm sleeping, and I start to hear singing. It was about 2:55 a.m. I remember this because I made my dad buy an alarm clock. Why? I don't know. I just wanted one. I hear this soft, eerie woman's voice singing an old Samoan hymn. I'm going to try and mimic it. I know this hymn, so as I'm slowly waking up, she's still singing. So she's singing, and I get up and I look out the window, trying to figure out where this singing is coming from. I look down and I see this mist. The voice is coming from this mist. And it gets to the part of the hymn where you do like backup singing. And the way it goes is, Bese, bese, alleluia. Like that, okay? So it gets to that part. Bese. Then silence. You hear absolutely nothing. But then I hear a whisper in my right ear. Bese. I turn my head and all I hear is my closet door shut. My dad comes barging in, yelling at us while we still awake and whatnot. Ask if we're good. And yeah, I go to sleep because I'm trying to forget everything. We're going to fast forward to a month now. My sister's with my mom at our aunt's house sleeping over, and then it's me and my dad at home. I'm in 5th grade, so I get told to go to bed for bedtime, because I have school tomorrow. The way my room is set up, if I lay at the foot of my bed, I can see the TV through my front door, or my bedroom door. My dad's in the living room sleeping, and I'm, slowly dozing off while watching TV. As I'm dozing off, I realize that my bedroom door is slowly starting to close, which isn't weird because I have nothing but windows, so it's the wind just blowing it closed. But what gets me is, once the door shuts, I hear my latch. It's locked. This freaks me out. I'm freaking out because now my closet door is opening It's old, it's heavy, it's loud, and it makes a lot of noise when you open it. As it's opening, all I hear is this same voice humming that hymn. I'm slowly starting to freak out, so I get up. The humming continues. Scoot back to the wall because I'm terrified at this point. And all I hear her say is, Saudi, which means come here in English. I ignore her. Saudi. I'm in shock and I don't know what to say. So I ask, what do you want? And all I hear from the closet is, your soul. No. That's not what she said. Anyway.
There's an island in the Philippines known for its enchanting folklore, spiritual customs, and scenic beauty. This is the island of Sakihar, or the Mystical Island. Nestled in the central Visayan region, the island is steeped in a unique aura of mystique, owing to its reputation as a haven for traditional healers, mystical rituals, and old age myths. With a history deeply intertwined with healing traditions, Sakihar's healers are celebrated for their use of herbs, rituals, and ancient spells to address various ailments. The island's intriguing reputation is further enriched by its rich tapestry of myths and legends, which include tales of witchcraft, duendes, and other supernatural occurrences that contribute to its mystical allure. Spiritual practices rooted in folk religions and animalistic beliefs form an essential part of Sakihar's cultural identity. The island is a melting pot for those seeking to engage with old age rituals, make offerings to spirits, and partake in ceremonies for protection and healing. Beyond its mystical ambiance, Sakihar is a paradise of natural beauty. Its white sand beaches, turquoise waters, and lush landscapes make it a sought-after destination for nature enthusiasts. Stepping onto Sakihar is like stepping into a different world, one where mystical traditions and captivating scenery converge to create an experience that is both unforgettable and enchanting.
That's a shapeshifter. Story time. Growing up in Haiti, or anyone who has Haitian parents can tell you that there is such a thing as shapeshifters, loups in Haiti. And that is the reason why they also tell you whenever you hear a cat sounding like that outside your house at a certain time at night, you should not go outside to go see what's wrong with the cat, because usually it's not a cat and you will not live to see or tell the story of what you witnessed. So I remember one time we were all in the house. It was late, very, very late. Usually we'll stay up even though we cannot be outside at a certain time. If you go to Haiti, you should always listen to the locals when they tell you do not go at a certain area, to a certain area, or at a certain time go outside. Because trust me, you won't make it back in the house. And I'm not even over-exaggerating. But anyway, so we were all in the house. We were young, but there was a bunch of grown-ups in the house also. Everybody's sleeping, and we were all waking up by this big boom that was on top of the house. And in Haitian houses in Haiti, they actually don't have like real like roof like we'd have here, but they have like metals. So any little thing, you can hear it. Even if the rain, we usually are able to fall asleep with the rain sound because it's just so loud and it's so soothing and all that stuff. But when the nightmare starts, trust me, you will hear every single thing. So we're sleeping and we're all waking up at this boom. Even the children, you know how children can sleep real well, right? They sleep through everything. We all were waking up. But the grown-ups already know because they're so used to it. And also we know a well-known lugau in the town that everybody could respect because we know how powerful she is. And a lot of people have been taken out by her, but they can never prove that it was her until one day. So anyways, we're all sleeping and we're waking up by the sound, and we just hear footsteps on top of the house just walking as if like it's like, you know, grains falling in the house, but it's like real loud footsteps, just walking, and all the adults just start praying, and the children were just scared because we're so used to hearing stories about that happening, and eventually it happened to us. So we're like scared, and the adults are praying, even though like voodoo is a religion in Haiti, they still pray. A lot of people pray but still practice voodoo, because that's really our religion. Just like the Catholic people, they also practice voodoo, but also they tell you that it's bad. Anyways, so they're praying. The children are trying to figure out what's going on. While the baby, my aunt had a baby that was just a few weeks old, not even a month, a few weeks old. The baby just kept crying nonstop. And they usually, whenever they come in on top of your house, they're coming for the baby, not children who are a certain age. They're coming for the innocent, right? So the baby's crying. The people are praying. So there's a lot going on, and the noise on top and everything. All of a sudden, the noise stopped, but we hear a cat right by the door, literally right at the door, right? This this cat just sounded like a baby. It's literally almost matching the sound of the baby that's crying. The cat sounded like a baby, scratching at the door, making noises, scratching at the door, making noise. And that's when the prayers started getting louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. And eventually the children fell asleep because the cat just kept going, kept going, kept going. I fell asleep because I was young at the time. Then eventually we heard the story the next day, but then what really made us believe it is what we saw the next day, what we experienced the next day. So we fell asleep. The adults, I guess, continue to do whatever they're doing. The next day we wake up to the horror of everything. The baby that was crying was basically covered in ants, covered head to toe, ants eating the baby's skin, everything. I mean, I should have given you guys a warning. Eating everything. But of course, you know, everything is still intact, but the skin is bite marks from the ants. Baby, gone. Pass. Don't know why, don't know how, but the baby's gone. What happened last night happened. Next morning, wake up, baby's gone. And that was the first child that my aunt lost. And then finally after that, she just kept losing children up until 7 kids. She lost 7 kids until she actually stopped having kids. Every time one passed, she has another one. Every time one passed, I'm like, as someone who has common sense, you would think, okay, I would stop after maybe the 3rd or 4th one. Well, she just kept having children. Eventually, she decided, okay, well, I'm not going to have any more kids if I'm going to keep losing them. But when she had her first son, which is the oldest child, that child survived because she didn't live in the house. She didn't live in that town when she had that child. So that child survived. But eventually, she lost her life to the same thing. And also, I lost my godmom to the same thing. I have a story for that. Also, my older sister who lives right now in the United States, we almost lost her to a neighbor who was practicing brujeria, voodoo. Very good person, good people, but it was a mistake that happened. And we were able to figure it all out. If you guys want to hear about that story, I will tell you. But my mom even sent money for us to buy like coffin for her, preparing for her funeral and everything. Now she's a nurse. Anyway, guys, bye.